Anyone here is someone ringing the bell? Let me know. Good morning. Where can I give you another shlichus? There's no one by the front desk today. Okay. Attendance. Yeah. Oh, someone, could you buzz the building? Could you buzz the building? Sorry. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Anyway, I want to say, I'm beginning to think that maybe Leah has some Ruach HaKodesh. It's really not a joke. It's serious stuff. Leah.
Yes. What?
I said, I'm beginning to be suspicious that maybe you have Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah.
No, last night you said something about giving $100 for Hanukkah Geld. Not exactly as your prophetic vision, but something very beautiful happened this morning. I'm in shul.
Oh, wow.
I'm in shul.
I'm excited.
And somebody walks over to me and asks me, how many students do you have, Machon? I thought he just asked me a casual question. So I told him. So he takes out a few $100 and says, this is $25 Hanukkah Geld for every student.
Whoa! Girls group.
So, Leah, your Ruach HaKodesh, you have to make it a bit sharper. You said $100, I'm $25, but okay.
Yeah, but it's triple, right? It's like the campaign. Every dollar is double.
Okay, make it 4 times. Anyway, so I'd like to give a Hanukkah Geld. If you want to come take it, this is for everyone that's here. I have to make change, so I don't know if I have enough. Let me soon see. Leron, you want to take this and give it to Nadia?
I want to cut from your head.
This is 20. This is 5. Wait.
Wow.
5.
Thank you, everybody.
And this is for Luba. 20 and 5. Okay. I said you have very beautiful people here in the community. Really, very nice. It's not, just you want to do something nice.
I was very shy to get the example. Like, I needed to ask them.
Everyone got 1, 2, 3.
That's how business
4,
works.
5. Did everyone get? Hi, Rachel, you got?
I did. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe somebody will get a chance to write something up and we'll give them a nice thank you card. It's really, very nice. It's not one of the millionaires in the neighborhood, so I was really surprised, but it's very nice. Really nice. Okay. Just check with everybody. Yes.
I will give you everyday broker to give us every morning.
Amen. Okay.
So,
I should have some change left for me also. Yeah.
don't
Okay.
forget, go to school every night.
Okay. Okay. Now we shall continue in the Maimer. So we're in the middle of a war over here, fighting the war with Nefesh Bahamas, and we spoke about the weapons, which are. Remember, have in mind if you hear someone ringing the bell or screaming, just buzz. Tell Dvorah she has the buzzer. She's the gatekeeper this morning. Okay.
No, I thought you didn't want me here.
Locked you out. I guess Ms. Yaffe is not feeling well, so she couldn't come today. Okay. So we're in the middle of the page, and we're talking about the different weapons. So we spoke about the sword, we spoke about the bow and arrow, and now we're talking about the weapon which is called a club, a stick. And Gemara says that Rishoyim, Hashem beat them with a stick and compares it to a dog. What is it that defines the Russia, and why are we comparing the Russia to a dog? And the answer is, it has to do with the fact that a dog is spelled in Hebrew, Kelev. And Kelev is like two words, Kulei Lev, it's all heart. Hashem created us with a mind and a heart. The heart is emotional. The mind thinks, and the mind is there to understand what's right, what's wrong, sort of in an objective way, not in an emotional way. And the way it's supposed to be, the way Hashem created us, that the mind should control the heart. And we all have that ability, which means even if the heart is on fire, the heart is burning with some passion to do something which is inappropriate, the brain has the power to command the heart to not fulfill its desire. So the difference between a Rasha and a tzaddik is, the way the Gemara puts it, is that a tzaddik, it says, his heart is in his hands, in his control. By a Rasha, his heart controls him. He's in control of his heart. His heart is in control of him. So that's when we need a stick. In other words, when you're talking to someone like a human being and you want to change their view, you see they have an idea which is wrong, which is inappropriate, and you can talk to them, and you talk and you speak, you explain, and you can get through to them through the mind. So through the head, you get to the heart. But if you're dealing with a kelev has no intellect, there's no seichel, it's just emotion. And therefore, the kelev is angry and mad and wants to attack you. You can't reason with him. You can't talk to him. You can't communicate with him on that level. The only language he understands is a stick. And the same as the Russia. Russia gets to a place, obviously we're talking about a specific kind of Russia, that he's so immersed in his passions, in his emotions, and what makes him feel good or not feel good, that he just functions by emotion. There's no one to talk to, nobody home if you talk seichel. So then the Eibishter's only way of dealing with him is with a stick. But when we're talking about this in our Maimer, we're applying it to ourselves with our Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Bahamas. So where are we? We're on top of the page. Oh, wait a second. I'm on the wrong page. Sorry. So we're on page 4 in the booklet. It's Ois Tezayin in the Maimer. And we said yesterday that here he's going to explain where does the difference come from? Everything has to come from Shemayim, from up there. Where does the difference come from on the higher spiritual plane? And this is the difference between the world of Tohu and the world of Tikkun. So we're starting with the middle of the page where it says, V'sherish ha'inyan. Actually, the first letter on the line, the first word on that line is V'sherish. It's pretty much the center of the page. V'sherish ha'inyan, the root of all this is the difference between the mind controlling the heart or the heart functioning without the mind controlling it. It's known. What is the general difference between the world of Tohu and the world of Tikkun? In the world of Tohu, there were 7 midos, and there was it clashed. There was an explosion. Everything fell apart. The world of Tikkun, which means a world that's corrected, that's the world of Atzilus. There's also 7 midos, but everything is in order. Everything is intact. What's the difference? In the world of Tohu, the midas was separated from the meichen, from the level of intellect. In these spiritual worlds, there's also intellect and emotion. Chochma, Bina, Das is the intellect. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Malchus is Hashem's emotion. So in the world of Tohu, there was both. In the world of Tikkun, there was both. But the difference is, in the world of Tohu, there was a disconnect between the intellect and the emotion. The intellect did not have the impact on the emotion. The meichen was separate from the midos. And they had no impact on the midos. And that's why it says that there was a lot of light. So I think in your book it's underlined, these words or not? Right? Underlined. Because these are Hasidic terms. And I really should give you the booklet with the terms so you can mark it off by yourself. Sorry, I didn't prepare that. But when you look around in Chassidus and it talks about the world of Tohu and the world of Tikkun, what's the difference? It says in the world of Tohu, there was a lot of light, too much light. In the world of Tikkun, there was not so much light. And that's why in Tohu it broke, and in Tikkun it didn't break. It's like the mashal, it's not even a mashal, it's pretty much a similar idea that we know the story with the 2 sons of Aaron, that they were overcome. Yeah, we have to leave it open for that. 2 sons of Aaron, they were overcome with such love for Hashem that as a result of that, their soul expired. And when the soul expired, they died. The body fell. So why doesn't it happen to other people who are davening? Because when they're davening, they don't feel that strong, intense love for Hashem. So because there was such a strong light in their hearts, that's why they passed away. But those people who have love for Hashem, but in a more contained way, in a more limited way, it doesn't cause that. So that's the difference between the world of Tohu and the world of Tikkun. The world of Tohu, the light was very strong, so intense that everything fell apart. The world of Tikkun, the light is not as strong. Another thing it says, that in the world of Tohu was Anfin Mispardin, the second term. In Aramaic, it means separate branches. When you look at a tree, the way a tree grows, each branch spreads out and becomes separate. The original tree is one. There's a trunk. When the trunk of the tree comes out of the ground, it's one piece. And then a branch starts growing. So one part goes this way. One part goes that way. Another part goes a third way. Basically, each branch is separate from the other. So that's another thing. In the world of Tikkun, the spheres are connected with each other, and they include each other. And that's what we know as Chesed Sheba Chesed, Gevura Sheba Chesed, Teferes Sheba Chesed, like we do this by Spheres Homer. Das Sheba Chesed, Malchus Sheba Chesed, every sphere includes the other sphere. In the world of Tohu, the spheres didn't include each other. And that's another reason why they fell apart. So what he's saying now, these 2 reasons are all connected. It's all because of 1/3 reason. What's the third reason? Because the meichen were not connected to the midas. To understand this, just think of a mashal of a person that when two people, for example, have difference of opinion, and the difference of opinion are very strong. So there's two possibilities. One possibility is I have this opinion, you have that opinion, and I have room in my head to understand that you can have another opinion. Like their famous expression, we can agree to disagree. But where does that come from? That's from the brain. If there's no brain, there's no seichel, just emotion. It does not. No one. Then it's just emotion. I want one thing, you want another thing. If you want to know what that looks like, try to watch 2-year-olds playing together and see what it means. Midas without seichel. They want something, you can talk to the walls. I mean, it depends. At a certain age, we can also reason with them. You can try to distract them. But if they want something and the other child wants the other thing, and you say, what's the big deal? You want the green one? She wants the green one? Let her have the green one, you'll have the blue one. No way. Only the green one. And you know what the difference between the green one and the blue one is? The green is green and the blue is blue. It's the only difference. Otherwise, it's the same toy. It's exactly looks the same, but I want the green one. No, I want the green one. So it's midas. And there's no logic there. There's no rhyme or reason. You can just talk to the walls, talk to your blue in the face. So when an adult is like that, there's no seichel. We need the midas take over completely. There's no thought process. So midas alone will clash with the other midas. So chesed and gvura clashed, and gvura and teferes clashed. All the midas, each one is different. They're all pulling in different directions. So therefore they clashed, and there was a shviras hakelim. But when there is seichel, when there is logic and intellect and thought, then you in the mind there is room for understanding both sides. But the main thing is when you understand something, it softens the midas. Midas are not so intense when there's seichel behind it. When there's no seichel behind it, then the midas are just like an animal. Yeah.
Repeat again the three things that you mentioned. So it was like.
So one reason that's given is Ribui Ur, that the light in Olam HaTorah was extremely intense. It was so intense, and that's what caused the kelim to break. So that would be like the mashal of a person whose heart is feeling love for Hashem, and the love for Hashem is so intense that the heart can't contain it, and Rahman al-Islam, the person passes out. The second reason given is that in the world of Tohu, the spheros were like separate branches. They didn't include one another. And because they didn't include one another, they clashed. What does include one another mean? That chesed has a little bit of gevura in it. Gevura has a little bit of chesed in it. So if I'm a gevura person, and I'm doing something or dealing with a person who's a chesed person, and they're very strong on things being a chesed way, I'm very strong on things being a gevura way, I can't understand the other person's approach whatsoever because I'm pure chesed. I have no gevura in me. I can't relate to gevura. And the other person is pure gevura, no chesed in them. They can't relate to chesed. But if I have some gevura in me, I can relate to the way you're doing things. I can relate to the way Netzach is doing. Yisayid, all the spheres. Each sphere could connect to another sphere because I have a little bit of that in myself. You know, they say that an adult, there's certain adults that can't relate to children. They can't teach children. They can't play with children. They just don't get it. They can't relate to the mentality of the child. But how could an adult? But adult is really so different. But the answer is we were once children once upon a time. So we should understand the way a child looks at things. They call it the child in us. But the truth is that some people are disconnected from that. They can't. Which means if I have something in me that can relate to where you are, then I can understand you more. If I don't, I won't understand you. So that's the second reason, that in the world of Tohu, chesed was pure chesed. There was no other element in chesed. Gvura is pure Gvura, no other element in Gvura. And therefore, the spheres clashed. The third thing is explaining that this third thing is the cause for the other two. What's the third thing? That there was no, that the intellect in that world, the Moichen, the Chochmah Bina Das, didn't impact the Midos. They were separate from the Midos. I think I hear some voices out there, so if you can buzz it in. And just say a tefillah, hopefully only good people will come in. People in charge of security would see us do this, they'd fire us. So in other words, what intellect does to emotion is it makes it softer. Because there's logic to it. When there's no logic to it, then it's intense. If there's logic to it, it's softer. If it's softer, it's now more flexible, and two people could get along, even though they're opposites. And two midas could get along, even though they're opposites. So I was going to explain it a little bit more. So far we got it? Everybody's on board? Yeah. Meichen affects the midas, they have more bittul to them, which means they're more flexible. Bittul means, in this context, it means not so intense, not so strong. It's bendable, it's flexible, adjustable. I know. Moichen makes causes that the midas should be weaker. We don't mean weak in a way that means it's something wrong with it. It means not so intense, not intense to the point of causing destruction. It's not so intense. For example, when a person experiences love, but it's love that's born out of seichel, which means there was something there that I appreciate intellectually. My brain says this is a good thing, this is a value, and because of that, I love this thing or this person. By definition, this kind of love will have to be a limited love because it's based on logic. That I understand, let's say that this object is actually a diamond and it's worth a lot of money. So I want this, I have a love for it. But the love will be in proportion to the logic. If it's worth $1 million, then my desire for it will be so much greater. If it's worth $150, my desire would be much less. It'll be according to the directive of the seichel, whatever seichel dictates. Not more than that. So in other words, if any midah that's based on logic has to be limited according to what logic understands. Being that the midah is limited, if it's limited means it's not occupying all the space, it allows space for another midah. Which means once the feeling of love for this, it's limited, so there's a certain point where it sort of ends. Once it ends, there's room for another midah, the midah of Gevurah. Yeah. Yeah.
How it works, like when the person is the person who is open, is supposed to be like one to share Alamidos or like how it works?
Let's hear the question again. Let me say hear it again. You have two people, one is Chesed, one is Gevurah.
Two opposite personalities.
Right.
Two opposite type of leaders. And very often when, for example, even the couple, like he is more
Chesed.
and she's more like quiet, she's more like extrovert. And like how it works with the
And the way they want it, that's where it's going to be. And the other person says the same thing, that they clash. So basically, two people that are very different, they're going to find something that they have in common, and that's going to connect them in spite of their differences. And I understand that I'm me and you're you, and we have our differences, and I respect the differences, and that's how they can get along. But when a person is very strong in their way, they can't understand the other way, they don't respect the other way, then it gets into a big issue. I remember once speaking to a couple, and the husband's argument was that his wife is whatever, she was not on time, and he's a person who's always on time, and it always causes a lot of arguments between them. And the main thing that bothers him, he's talking to her about it for years already, she still hasn't changed. So she said, I'm trying. Yeah, trying. How long does it take? And then he says, for example, she was always complaining about me that I'm not neat. I take my stuff and I hang it up on a chair, hang it up on the doorknob. I don't hang it up in the closet. So you told me about it, and I worked on it, and I changed it. Within a year, it was done. I'm talking to you about this for 5 years already, nothing's happening. A good argument or not? So he can't understand, why is it taking you 5 years? You asked me to change something. So he asked him a simple question. Is there anything at all in your life that needs to be changed, or everything else is perfect? He says, yeah, of course there's something needs to be changed. How many years are you trying to change that? Since I'm a kid. Oh, I said, interesting. Why are you comparing what she hasn't changed in 5 years to the thing you changed in 1 year? Why don't you compare it to the thing that you didn't change in 25 years? And he thinks, yeah, you have a point. In other words, if you start thinking seichel, you realize and you understand, I can understand that people are different, people have different strengths, people have different weaknesses. And again, you could learn to accept and respect the other person, even though they're different. And then things can come together. But this is seichel. Without seichel, it's not going to happen. Without seichel, it's just midas, and I want this way, you want that way, and it just clashes.
I also had this situation. I was a person who was trying to be always on time, and I had friends, and she's always on time. And she told me in the beginning of our friendship, if you want to stay friends, I always will be late.
Just accept it.
Yeah. She's like, either you accept me or we're not friends.
And what happened?
Now I'm suffering.
What happened?
I'm just waiting for time to be friends.
You know, they say that German Jews are very punctual. Very, very punctual. They live with time like the clock. They tell the story that a husband called up his wife, Shul, and he said, today I'm going to come a little bit later because we're starting to say Mashiv Baruch Amorah Geshem. We're saying 4 more words in davening. so there was once a wedding. One side was a Hasidic family, the other side was a German Jewish family, Yakis they called. And the Yakis always on time, and the Hasidim always not on time. What happened was that the Hasidim said, "Whoa, these guys are very much on time. We better be there on time." So what happens? The Hasidim came an hour early, and the Yakis came an hour late. So they came exactly late. Yeah, it has to be, yes, this is what Meichen does. Meichen softens the midas, that there's room. But the Rebbe explains it very beautiful here. Anything which is based on logic is limited. And if it's limited, that means there's a certain point where it ends. If it ends, there's more space for something else. So, for example, if you have a room, and every single inch in the room, every square inch has a piece of furniture in it, table, from the beginning to the end, there's no room to put another table. And if you take out a table, now there's room for something else. So when a person's midah is not limited, there's just no room for anything else. What's the difference? If the midah is based on seichel, it has to be limited. But a midah which just sort of a spontaneous emotional reaction to something, totally no logic behind it, just emotion, pure emotion. I don't even allow seichel to go there. Unfortunately, we find people when they get angry, they do things that later they regret it, and they can't even believe, how did I do such a thing? Because it's just pure emotion. There's no seichel. You know what happened now in Eretz Yisrael? What happened on October 7th? A normal human being thinks to himself, how in the world could people do the things that they did? And the answer is this: it's not people. It's like asking, how could a lion do what a lion does? How could a leopard do what a leopard does? How could a tiger do what a tiger? They're animals. They're just midas. That's it, the answer. So there's a person that's pure midas. They just do what their midas tell them to do, and nothing else counts. So that's the difference. If it's a midah that's based on seichel, it's limited and it leaves room for other things. Now, once with his room, one leaves room for the other. Now they're both in the same sort of place, so they can include each other. They can both be working together on the same thing. So the truth is, husband and wife have to work together in their own relationship, and let's say how they're raising the children. But every husband and wife in most cases are just different. Not everybody's extremely different, but different. And yet they are able to work together because they have one goal, and it's not about me and my ego, it's about accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. And we learn how to adjust and to be flexible to make things work out. And in fact, one of the reasons behind it is because the truth is, you need both. You need chesed and you need gevura. I don't know if it came up in your classes, but we find an interesting thing that Avram Avinu only had 2 sons, and one of them was a Rasha, Yishmael. Yitzchak only had 2 sons, and one of them was a Rasha, Esav. Yaakov had 12 sons, and all of them were tzaddikim. So the Chassidus explains it is not chas v'shalom on this level, but the same concept in Kedusha. Avram was pure chesed. What is the difference? Avram is chesed, Yitzchak is gevura. What's Yaakov? Teves. What's Teves? Harmony in the blending of chesed and gevura. So Avram was pure chesed, something negative came out of it. Yishmael. Yitzchak is pure gevura, something negative came out of that. That's Esav. Yaakov, because he was the blend of chesed and gevura together, even though he had 12 children, they were all tzaddikim. Because when there's the blending of everything together, that everything comes together and nothing goes wrong. So that's what he's saying, that there's room both in the same place and they both interact with each other and they both are able to adjust to each other, be flexible for each other, and so on. Even this itself, that the 2 midas should work with each other, that itself is influenced by seichel. Logic dictates that this is the right way things should be. Logic dictates that love should also have in it gevura, which should be disciplined. Like we know that if love that's not disciplined is actually dangerous. Because if you have love that's not disciplined, you'll be kind and compassionate and giving to whom? To a wicked person, to an evil person. Which is, like we said this many times, that one of the unfortunate things in this country is it's a definitely a country of chesed, but the chesed to a degree, to a point where it becomes a fault. So a person who is found guilty of murder, you look at his record, he was arrested who knows how many times, there was attempted murder before, and they allowed him to go out of jail, and so on. Even here, with Israel, I mean, if you think of it, this person who's the founder, the head of the whole Hamas, who's behind everything that happened, he was once held as a prisoner in Israel for doing things which is I don't know if he killed or whatever. He was in jail multiple times, and they let him out of jail. Not only that, he had a brain tumor, and the hospital and doctors in Israel cured him. And then he comes out and this is what he's doing to say thank you. So when you do chesed to a wicked, evil person, only evil comes out of it. So even logic dictates that chesed has to be limited. On the other hand, you have to discipline things, but it has to be with love. Pure discipline will break people. Yeah.
Would it have been like, what would have been the right thing to do with the everybody who was in the hospital? What did because like Jewish thing, like not
I don't know all the circumstances, but I'm saying in general, if it's someone, this is the principle there. You have to know what was the situation. This principle applies. But the principle is, I mean, they say the same thing about Hitler, that when he was a child, his life was in danger, and there was a Jewish doctor that saved his life. Makes perfect sense. I mean, of course, the doctor had no idea that this is going to be the future of this child. But I'm giving an example. Let's say the Torah would say in a certain case, you're not allowed to desecrate Shabbos for this person. And say the Torah, how could Torah be so insensitive and not caring? And the answer is, that the Torah says, means that sometimes when you do chesed, you don't see the whole picture, but at the end of the day, there'll be more bad coming out of it than good.
Yeah, but I think that if you Hashem gave you a talent and a possibility to learn to be a doctor, you have no like human option help or not. You know how to help you.
No, so we have to follow Torah. I'm saying if the Torah would say in a certain situation that you're not allowed to save someone's life, there's no such thing. In Torah, you do everything to save a person's life. But let's say the Torah would say you're not allowed to, maybe not saving a life, something else that the Torah would say you're not allowed to, and a person would say, but you have to have compassion. Where's the compassion? The Torah is full of compassion. If the Torah says don't do it, it must be that if you would, you'll do more damage than you're doing good. I think I told you once, I saw a letter where it's not that I read these letters from colleges and universities, but it was someone brought it down in explaining a sikha. And he writes that this person went to school to study to become an engineer, and his professor failed him. And he writes a heart-rendering letter to his professor, describing how hard he worked to collect the money to go to school, and how difficult it was, and how he's up nights studying, and everything that he did. And he's begging and pleading with him to please reconsider and have me pass, because now I have to start all over again, and it's money, and it's time, and it's everything so disappointing and discouraging. He's begging and pleading the professor to give him a passing mark. So the professor writes back that, and he's pleading for his compassion. And he says, I really, understand you, and my heart goes out to you, and I really feel for you. But who's going to have compassion on the people that are going to walk on your bridges? He's an engineer. He's going to build a building. He's going to build a bridge. And Chas v'shalom, it collapses because the engineer didn't know exactly what he was doing. Who's going to have compassion on them? You don't even think about it. But by me giving the okay to you and having compassion on you, Chas v'shalom, 500 people could, God forbid, something could happen to them. The tragedy that happened 2-3 years ago in Florida, where a building collapsed. Rahman al-Islam. I don't know what the story is, not relevant. Just theoretically speaking, if it was someone who didn't know what he was doing and he had the job to do it and he didn't do it right, so by being nice to them and being compassionate and giving them the job, look what you caused. So therefore, compassion and love and all these emotions must be limited. On the other hand, gevura, which is discipline, also has to be limited. It has to be coupled with love and care, and then the gevura is effective. But if not, it just breaks the other person. So that means that even logic dictates that chesed and gevura have to be include each other. Okay. So, Chana, you missed a big surprise this morning. Last night, Leah said that when we come in the morning, we should each get $100 Hanukkah yoke.
Yeah.
And guess what? It didn't happen. But what did happen is someone in shul came over to me and said he wants to give a gift every student $25 Hanukkah yoke. So we have that. You're very welcome. Okay.